This video will also serve as a pretty reasonable introduction to speedrunning Slay the Spire. That all said, I'm going to be showing off a speed climber run here, and then we play damage cards, and that's really all there is to it. Really appreciate Ironclad's ability to do that. GG! Hey there, YouTube. Baylor here in the big comfy chair, and today I want to talk about going fast in Slay the Spire. Specifically, fast enough to get the Speed Climber achievement. That's for beating the game in under 20 minutes. I think this is one of the harder achievements to get, so if you're hunting for all the achievements, then you'll find that this one might elude you after even a few tries. This video will also serve as a pretty reasonable introduction to speedrunning Slay the Spire. I think playing this game really quickly is something that's very enjoyable to do, even as much as this game is a game about taking your time and thinking strategically. Going fast is heckin' fun. All four characters are equally capable of getting the Speed Climber achievements. The approach will be slightly different depending on which one you choose, whether that be Ironclad, Silent, Defect, or Watcher. The two fastest candidates will be the Watcher. She's got very good damage with the Wrath stance, but Watcher and going fast can result in dying pretty dang easily. This achievement, I think, will be the easiest with the Ironclad, but you're free to choose whichever one you think will suit you the best and whomever you enjoy playing with most when you're shooting for this achievement. And they're all very fun to speedrun, too. Quick note on... Actually, before I jump into the settings here, we also want to be playing on 0 Ascension, if we're trying to go fast. That first Ascension level spawns more elites on the map, and that is a big thing that slows you down, in addition to all the difficulty of the further Ascension levels. You can just plain go the fastest if you're on Ascension 0, and if you're shooting for the achievement, I think that's the best way to go about it. One thing that you can do to improve your odds is tweak your game settings a little bit. One of the biggest parts of a Slay the Spire run when you're trying to go fast is watching all the different animations during combat. Biggest, most important thing is to make sure that you've got fast mode enabled here in the preferences. I believe fast mode is available on all platforms for Slay the Spire, and it significantly speeds up most of the animations in the game. If you're playing on Steam PC, you can additionally set your max frame rate to 240, and then also disable VSync, because VSync would lock your frame rate to your monitor's refresh rate to cause the game to run at higher FPS, and that'll significantly speed up particularly lightning orb animations on the Defect, but also a host of other little ones. If you're looking to speedrun as a Defect specifically, I really recommend the 240 frame rate and disable VSync to get those full speed animations, but again, you're totally able to get the achievement on any character, on any platform. Completely reasonable. So with that all said, I'm going to be showing off a Speed Climber run here that I did as the Ironclad, and kind of commentating on my decision making and the strategy that I'm using to play quickly. And that will then serve as our little introduction here. So without further ado, let's dive on in to the actual run here. So when we're trying to go fast in Slay the Spire, starting right at the very beginning here, I'm going to be taking Meow's Lament, the starting bonus that says your first 3 enemies have only 1 hit point. And that's going to allow us to clear through these opening combats to get our rewards very quickly. Making decisions quickly is going to be a really big part of playing through the game quickly. There's a whole heck of a lot of decisions to make, and you'll have to be pretty fast about it if you want to be able to keep up with the game. Something that I find really helpful is give yourself maybe 5 seconds, thereabouts, at each card decision to think about them, and if you can't make a decision within 5 seconds, then just move on. It's more important to make a decent decision quickly than it is to make the wrong decision instantaneously. Or to make a slow decision is the worst thing of all when we're trying to go fast. So here in Act 1, I'm choosing a path that is going to allow me to fight a couple of elites to get relics that will be useful later in the run. We're going to need to get stronger enough to beat our Act 2 and 3 bosses, and that's going to require quite a few relics. For my card picks, I'm prioritizing things that give me immediate damage, so we take a couple of damage cards, Pommel Strikes from our first few rewards, and then a Flex. I wanted a free relic from this event here, but I end up fighting Lagavulin kind of unexpectedly. We commit the potion to get the kill pretty quickly, but it does cost me a lot of life. However, the relic we get from this is totally worth it and going to let me speed up quite a bit. You can kind of see the basics of the deck strategy coming together here. We apply Vulnerable with Thunderclap, we gain some strength with Flex, and then we just play our attack cards. The Red Skull here is going to be a tremendous boon to our damage output, giving me 3 strength when I'm below half health. And we're going to see a consistent strategy start to evolve here. We gain strength, and then we play damage cards, and that's really all there is to it. Going fast in Slay the Spire means minimizing as many turns spent in combat as possible. The greatest amount of time, the greatest time consumer, rather, is going to be those animations each combat. The drawing of your cards each hand, the animation of the enemy doing their attack. That eats up a lot of your time, and so if you want to stay ahead of the clock here for a sub 20 minute run, you want to spend as little time in combat as possible. When it comes to our deck construction, that means that we want a deck that wins in as few turns as possible. No worry on block here. We remove as many block cards as we can at shops, and we add strength at attacks. And that's all we need. Slime Boss doesn't stand too much of a chance here. So we're thanks to our 3 strength from Red Skull. So we're able to cut through the fight pretty quickly and collect our first rare card. Well, our first guaranteed rare card. We already had 1 limit break. We're offered a second one here, and herein comes the kind of core strategy that this deck will then use for the rest of the run, which is getting a whole bunch of strength with Flex and then doubling it with limit breaks. At this boss reward, I contemplate momentarily the Snecko Eye there to give me the additional draw, but decide that we want some additional energy from the Philosopher's Stone instead, not wanting to make that Flex 3 cost. The legends do say that if you take the Philosopher's Stone, that the birds will appear at the start of Act 2, and so they do. Fortunately, having a lot of attacks and the extra energy makes the fight not too problematic for us. But going into Act 2, we're looking to scale up the damage that this deck does. We had enough damage to get through the elites and bosses of Act 1, but Act 2 requires a more significant jump up in the damage, so we want to start to get more strength sources, more cards that say plus strength on them, and cards that are going to hit multiple times if we can find any of those, something like a Whirlwind or a Sword Boomerang. Getting a lot of our starting cards removed would also be really beneficial here. I get a lucky duplication and I immediately choose to duplicate that Flex, because the main obstacle right now to getting this deck to go quickly, there's a strength scaling attack for us, the Pummel, we take that too. The main obstacle to getting this deck online quickly is drawing the limit break at the same time as the Flex. So anything that can draw us more cards is good, and anything that can give us more strength is going to be good. Removing cards serves that role pretty well also. Pommel Strike says draw a card, we take it. And you can see now that the strategy for each combat is pretty much the same. Play the strength cards, apply vulnerable, and then kill the enemy. And that's what you want to be making in your own decks when you're speedrunning. You're not going to find the exact same cards that I did, but what you should have is something that plays fairly simply. An all-in kind of damage approach that is going to have the same choices that it makes in each combat. One of the toughest things to do is to choose which cards you're playing from your hand each turn if you're trying to go fast. But it's a lot easier to do that quickly if your strategy is kind of brainless, right? You want to build something that's simple and straightforward because that's what's going to go fast. In my pathing here, now that I have 2 limit breaks and some strength gain, I'm feeling like I'm strong enough to pretty much win the rest of the game. We no longer need to fight elites to get stronger. We no longer need to fight anything else at all. We've got the core cards we need. All we need to do is get a couple removals, maybe a couple more upgrades, and we should be good to go. Decide on another Inflame here. You'll note that whenever possible, we're skipping cards if they don't add to the damage output of the deck. So I'm not taking Shrug It Offs, I'm not taking True Grits. There's no need for block or anything like that. We only want card draw and strength from our card rewards. We also want to avoid fights as much as possible. The only thing that's faster than winning a fight on turn 1 is not getting into a fight at all. Even that free upgraded Shrug. Tempting! It's a green card. You know, it blocks for quite a lot, but it's not going to help me go any faster here. Likewise, nothing in that store that's going to speed us up, so I choose to pass. And it's better to quickly skip than it is to spend a few minutes considering a card and then it doesn't speed you up that much. A Spot Weakness Plus is yet another initial source of strength here. After a moment of consideration, I decide to snag it as kind of a last-minute addition here. The more cards we have that say gain strength on them, the easier it is to draw these limit breaks alongside them for the immediate damage output. We're still not quite consistently killing everything on turn 1, which is where we want to be. It's a 3 or so turn affair. Centurion is angry, but we take it to the face. I think about this Warcry here and ultimately decide to take it because of exactly that reason. It's card draw, which is going to let me get the strength into position quicker here. And we're just going to try to brute force our way through the Bronze Automaton fight. Kind of an unlucky draw here, so I decide to use the Strength Potion to get a little bit more damage started. The goal in this fight is to simply kill the boss as quickly as possible. This boss has that really nasty Hyper Beam that they do on turn 6 of combat, but we can avoid it entirely if we simply kill them first. And with all the cards in the deck dedicated to doing exactly that, it's not too hard. This would be a much different fight if there were a bunch of block cards in the deck, that's for sure. Even opting to take damage in order to ensure that we can get the kill as quickly as possible. Plus, we get our Red Skull online, which we're still very happy to have. Crush through it, no problem. The offering here is the immediate and obvious pick from the boss, giving me even more card draw and even more energy. And then of the boss relics, I really like the Runic Pyramid, because it'll allow me to retain the limit breaks to play after I've gained my strength. Especially with the offering, it doesn't feel like we need the additional energy so much. Between the Pyramid and the offering, we should find ourselves able to consistently draw into enough strength. The goal now is, in Act 3, to get to the boss as quickly as possible. We don't want to spend any time whatsoever, particularly in elite combats. This is the main reason we want to play Ascension 0 for a fast run, is because skipping all the elites in Act 3 is definitely the way to go. The Giant Head has the highest health total of any enemy, more health than the bosses at the end of the act will have. And the Nemesis can really be a run ender for trying to go fast, because they're intangible every other turn. which forces you to wait for them. They add burns to your draw pile, or your discard pile, that will slow you down, and they can hit really, really hard, too. Reptomancer wouldn't be too bad for a deck like this, because you can easily deal with the daggers, but as a general rule, the elites of Act 3 are going to be much more trouble than they're worth. So if we can avoid all of them, which we can, we will. We'll try to visit as many question marks as possible. This is where a relic like Juzu Bracelet comes in really handy. If you see one in a store when you're trying to go fast, I highly recommend picking it up. It's a great way to guarantee that you get, instead of combats, just events that are way, way, way faster to go through. I think momentarily about that Dark Embrace, but without enough exhaust in the deck, it's not going to be worth it. Transience here is a pretty interesting fight to go quickly through. This enemy is very, very difficult to kill with their 999 health. But in order to get past them, you only need to survive for 5 turns. And you can lower their damage output by doing damage to them. So the goal to get through the fight as quickly as possible is to play only exactly as many cards as I need each turn to reduce their damage output to 0, and then end turn. That's what you see me doing here, is just a couple cards each turn to get through the fight nice and quickly here. I think we could have outright killed them if we tried, but it would have been much longer than going through it normally. I think that Whirlwind in the past card reward there, I remember spotting it but deciding against it, and then immediately regretting it when I ran into these 3 Jawworms. Sure would be nice to have a multi-hit area of effect card in this fight, but we're at least able to get through without too much trouble, even if it does take a little bit longer than I would like. Making sure to path away from that elite. Like I said, we do not want to deal with that whatsoever. We picked up a Bloodletting a couple of card rewards ago. With the Runic Pyramid, it felt like it would be a nice way to generate some additional energy for the really big turns, like this one, where it allows me to play everything in my hand. Had I remembered the Unceasing Top, I would have been able to get a kill there too, but I totally forgot that I had that relic. Do pick up this Whirlwind, recognizing my mistake from earlier. And here we're just going to try to sprint to the boss through all these question marks. No need to pick a fight with the double orb walkers. We are already going to win this boss fight, so the goal again is just get there as quickly as possible. Happy to get another strike removed. It's going to make the limit breaks easier to get online. And I decide to upgrade the limit breaks here at the last moment so that we can play them multiple times against Awakened One. One last test of abilities in Writhing Mass before we get to go to the boss here, but I think Writhing Mass will find that it's a little bit outmatched, as the stack is now fully online with the limit breaks. Disarm normally a pretty good card against Awakened One, but we're going to be killing them so quickly that any defensive card at all is going to slow us down. Just as with previous fights, the goal here, get a bunch of strength, play the damage cards, and we'll find that this deck is now really dang good at it. Look at that beautiful, beautiful hand. It's kind of really a joy to observe in action when damage of this magnitude comes online in a Spire run. Really appreciate Ironclad's ability to do that. GG, there's a 15-minute and 34-second run. If you like this video, I'd appreciate if you gave me a like, and let me know in the comments below what your personal best is in Slay the Spire. What's the fastest you've ever beaten this game? Thanks for watching, everybody.